Welcome, dear listeners, to another session with Michael in Germany. We have today on this beautiful Saturday, Sabbath day, February the 26th of February, 2022. Michael, I'm back from a long trip. Last week, I was actually in California, and the very, very little niche of California called Lake Tahoe, which is actually almost in Nevada. And now I've come back to work again. So I was working in California for a week, and then on the road for several days each way. And yeah, it was a very interesting time of year to leave Minnesota and go to California, because it's actually kind of the end of the winter here, and the roads aren't so friendly. So I actually had to really hightail it on the way home, which is not what I wanted, but I had no choice. And it went well. Actually, it went very well. I had a good time, and the only problem was, when I got back, I was pretty tired and pretty shot. But I've recovered now, and Michael has a new session for us today, session 11 on the Kennedy assassination, I believe. Michael, welcome.
Yeah, hello, Brett. Hello, dear listeners. Yes, it's not only Kennedy, but of course, it's the bigger approach of what does the Bible tell about conspiracies. But Brett is absolutely correct, spot on, that it's about Kennedy, because I think that's the most prominent.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of the mother of all conspiracy, isn't it, here?
And also maybe
terms
the
of
most
history and how they dealt with all of the issues and what they had to do in the open to show the world, you don't mess with us because we run the world, kind of thing.
It's one of the most prominent assassinations of all time, because it's constantly in the mind of the people. It's like 9/11, where the people always, when you confront them with 9/11, they got the pictures in their head with the buildings been bombarded or being thrown by the planes and all the explosions and so on. I think that's also the scene with Kennedy. Nobody talks about his approach, or maybe some of the people are talking about the Bay of Pigs. Some of the people are talking about the Cuba, but the majority of people remember Kennedy as a slain victim. And that's very sad, because you see that was not his achievement, but it was done with him. And so, of course, it was right in the open to display everybody, so that if you mess with us, even the so-called mightiest or the most powerful man in the world will be assassinated or murdered, because yes, we can. That's the thing with Kennedy. So if you compare that to an actual situation now, almost 60 years after 1963, when it happened, you can imagine and you can make your mind up if it's now getting better or if it's getting worse. And now you got in the United States of America, you got your next Irish Roman Catholic president, so-called Joe Biden. I think there are several reasons, very good reasons, to go into this and compare that then with the Bible, and we will see that the Bible is absolutely spot on. So welcome to the 11th session of What Does the Bible Tell About Conspiracies. Before I will introduce you to the title of this, let us have a broach or a general approach to the term of conspiracy and to news and media in general. I really like that picture here. It's been from a flat screen, and the nose of the anchorman is growing and growing and growing and growing until it threatens the so-called innocent viewer or bystander. Nothing to see here. If it is BBC News or China News, it does not matter. Just you have been bombarded with lies, and it's so obvious that I have a hard time imagining that people falling for that. So this is a very hilarious and a very true comic here, and it's been seen that people in the media are bombarding the general public with a bunch of lies, meaning that longer nose means the longer the nose, the bigger the lie. So where does it come from? It comes from a tale of Pinocchio. I will show it in English. Pinocchio is an Italian, Italian, interesting, fictional
Oh,
character.
goodness gracious, here we go. Home of the Seven Hills here.
Yeah, Italy has a long tradition with the fictional characters and with the fairy tales. Yeah, absolutely spot on. No? And the protagonist of the children's novel The Adventures of Pinocchio originated 1883 by Italian writer Carlo Collodi of Florence, so lesser nobility, Tuscany. Pinocchio was carved by a woodcarver named Geppetto in a Tuscan village. He was created as a wooden puppet, but he dreams of becoming a real boy. He's notably characterized for his frequent tendency to lie, which causes his nose to grow. There you see the similarity in that very picture here. Huh? Okay. Pinocchio is a cultural icon. Yes, and in this society, liars are very high regarded. He is one of the most reimaginated characters in children's literature. His story has been adapted into many other media, notably the 1940 Disney film Pinocchio. Yeah, so that you see, the bigger the lie, the nose is getting bigger too. It's very interesting because there is one more thing that he has a tendency to lie. Where do we know that from? Tendency to lie from the television screen. And there is a character called Jiminy. It's very interesting because in the book it appears as a nameless animal. So Jiminy appears only once in the book as a nameless cricket. But in the movie of Walt Disney, you see Walt Disney, Freemason 33, Club 33, and Walt Disney logo 666. In that movie from Walt Disney, Pinocchio kills her with a hammer because she gives him advice. Later, she appears as a ghost. In this character, Disney saw the core of what would make the story work. Disney didn't think there was enough warmth, love, and friendship in the story. That's why he built Jiminy Cricket in. He ended up being the heart of the story instead of being hammered to death. He begins to dominate the film more and more. So, to have a summary here, that means that Pinocchio is a liar and is a murderer. Pinocchio kills her with a hammer because she gives him advice. Yeah, so he knows it all. Yeah, he does not need any advice. Okay. It reminds me of John 8:42 bread.
Oh, interesting. Yes, John 8:42 reads, Jesus said unto them, if God were your Father, you would love me, for I proceeded forth and came from God. Neither came I of myself, but he sent me. Why do ye not understand my speech, even because ye cannot hear my word? Ye are of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. And because I tell you the truth, ye believe me not.
Yeah, of course he's speaking about the devil. Your father, the devil. So, and the devil is what? The devil is a liar and the father of it. Oh, hard time here. And a murderer from the beginning. So the devil is a murderer and a liar. And the father of lies. And now you compare that. Now you compare that back to Pinocchio. Pinocchio is a liar and a murderer. So Pinocchio is one other example or symbol of Satan. So they're killing you also. Satan is killing you with lies. Making the wrong decision, for example, a very, very, very actual thing in 2022, I think. So Satan is a murderer and a liar. And of course, when people are in the satanic or antichrist spirit, which is especially the same, and absolutely the same, they don't believe Jesus Christ, they don't believe the Bible, and they won't believe us. So that is a general introduction in this series. Now we're coming to the JFK things. Before I present you the title of this session, 11. I will get into some general things that now you see that from time to time some information will be published, and people are then awaiting the news to happen. They are awaiting any interesting information, and they will be disappointed because it's always gibberish, always unuseful information, very uninteresting things. It's just yellow press, Oswald, it's always Oswald, and it has nothing to do with the real thing which is going on behind the scene or behind the curtain now. So you don't have to wait for any news to come out of the mass media because they will lie to you. They are being paid to lie to you. You see that when we are talking about the mass media is being controlled by papal decrees. Papal decrees, Miranda Prosus is the first one, and the second one is Inter Mirifica. Now you look at the publishing date of Inter Mirifica. It's the 4th of December. So it's absolutely 12 days, is it just 12 days after Kennedy was assassinated. It was finished right before, of course, otherwise you could not have published it. So Inter Mirifica tells you it's a papal decree on the teaching of the church. Inter Mirifica is about decree on the media of social communications. It is not only limited to television or cinema, it's also telephone, it's telefax, it's telex, and nowadays it's tablet, it's laptop, it's smartphone, it's everywhere. Everything is social communications, social media. Media! From Media Persia, the priests, the priestly tribe, Inter Mirifica, promulgated by His Holiness Pope Paul VI on December the 4th, 1963. That is that very Pope that JFK approached in July on that very year. Among the wonderful technological discoveries which men of talent, etc. have made with God's help, the Church welcomes and promotes with special interest those which have a most direct relation to man's mind, which have uncovered new avenues of communication, most readily news, views and teachings of every sort. The most important of these inventions are those media which, such as the press, movies, radio, television, and the like, can, of their very nature, reach and influence not only individuals, but the very masses and the whole of human society, so thus can rightly be called the media of social communication. The Church Michael. The Church recognizes that these media, if properly utilized, can be of great service to mankind, since they greatly contribute to man's entertainment, to entertain and to spoil people mentally, and instructions as well to the spread and support of the kingdom of God. Which God they are talking about? You see that God, the word God, has no copyright. Satan has been described in the Bible as the God of this world, so-called God. The Church recognizes too that man can employ these media contrary to the plan of the Creator and to their own loss. Indeed, the Church experiences maternal grief at the harm all too often done to society by their evil use. Hence, the Sacred Synod, attentive to that watchful concern manifested by the Supreme Pontiff and bishops in a matter of such great importance, judges it to be a duty to treat of the principal questions linked with the media of social communication. It trusts, moreover, that the teaching and regulation it thus set forth will serve to promote not only the eternal welfare of Christians, but also the progress of all mankind. The Catholic Church, since it was founded by Christ our Lord, we know that is a blatant lie. To be a salvation to all men, and this is obliged to preach the gospel, considers it one of its duties to announce the good news of salvation also with the help of the media of social communication and to instruct men in their proper use. And now comes the valid sentence. It is therefore an inherent right of the Church to have at its disposal and to employ any of these media insofar as they are necessary or useful to the instruction of Christians, they mean Roman Catholics here, by the way, and its efforts for the welfare of souls. So they have the inherent right to have all the media to their disposal. That means they control the media. Yeah, father of lies. And this has not been set up, the Catholic Church had not been set up and founded by Christ our Lord. Yeah, that is the apostolical succession. We know that when we did that study, Brad, Jörg, and me, about that Peter never was in Rome, or Saint Peter versus
It's
Saint
just pure indoctrination, Michael. Just
absolutely,
pure indoctrination. They want you to abide in their doctrine, so you never study it yourself. And it's really simple, you know. You just listen to them, and they'll tell you what you need to do, and that's all you need to do. You know, check your brain and at the door. You know, you don't need a brain. You just listen to us, and we'll tell you what to do, and you'll make lots of money too.
Yeah. That's why you also approach in the United States, you approach in your government, you approach the fasces and all the symbolism.
Yeah, that's right. The fasci on the left and the right, both.
Yeah.
Not just one, but two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, left and right. What does that tell you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that means that we cannot rely on any pictures, media, broadcasts, or movies when it comes down to JFK. We have to use our common sense, and we have to use the Bible. And we will use that extensively in the later sessions. So after that, I have some more valuable information. 2 biographies look at the life of Rosemary Kennedy, sister of JFK, who was left disabled after a lobotomy by her father, of course. Yeah, so that also her father, which is the same father of John F. Kennedy, of course, he was responsible for ordering that lobotomy operation to the sister, which left her in a desolate state. It's really a mess when you go into the family. It's really a mess. So finally, I can reveal the title of that if you have, of course, you know the title because you know the description of the video. It's Superman Kennedy. Why did we choose Superman Kennedy? Oh, it's a long answer, and it will come at the end of the session. JFK made many speeches. One of the most prominent maybe is his moon speech at the Rice Stadium. Mm-hmm. He says, quote, "We chose to go to the moon. We chose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard." You know, that's all we need to know. He says, we chose to go to the moon in the beginning of the 1960s. Officially, they succeeded in July 1969. So they made it officially in this decade, or in that decade from the viewpoint of today. Yeah. So he's talking about many things. So one question arises, Brad, is that man a scientist?
No, he's a politician.
He's a politician. How can he know that the United States will be able to send man on the moon mission?
He doesn't.
Okay. So what's he doing here? He's telling fairy tales.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, he's just a smiley. He's just a sunny boy. He's just the one who has to sell everything. He's just a car seller here. Oh yeah, that new car that will get you from Boston to Chicago in no time, and you will feel absolutely fine in it, and everybody will, etc. So this is just he's selling the people.
Look what else he's selling you.
Yeah,
he says, we choose to go to the moon in this decade and to do other things. What other things?
Yeah, that's the next thing. I don't know what he's meaning with that. Yeah, so that he has no idea of anything. He has studied politics, and he has written a book about England in the Second World War. That's about it. So he's just one person who is out in the open, selling people or talking people and getting the information out that they want to go to the moon. But he's not a scientist, he's not educated in that field. So he has to rely on his experts and scientists. Science is the new religion. So the new religion or the new faith or the new belief is that USA is able to send a man on the moon. And if we have listened closely to our sessions of Science is the New Religion, I think it was sessions 75 to 79 somewhere, when it is about the moon hoax or whacking the moon doggy, you know that it's absolutely impossible to send anybody on the surface of the moon. There are many, many, many things which absolutely cannot be done with the state of science nowadays. And they tell us that they went to the moon in 1969. Yeah, when your car had most of it all carburetors, not a catalytic converter, has a big truck engine in it, but no skilled technique or so, no sophisticated circuits, no home computers, no handies, no mobile phones. Yeah, but you see that it's just setting the people there what they want to hear, because he wants to be elected again. He wants to be successful. You see, he is one. He has to rely on his experts. So he doesn't know what he's talking about. Obviously, nobody can talk about that subject who is not in the field of research. So here's meeting Mr. John F. Kennedy as President of the United States. That's why he was on board on the Air Force One, United States of America, you see in the background here. He's meeting the very famous German rocket engineer Wernher von Braun. Wernher von Braun has a colorful past because he also wanted to, he achieved to produce the V2 Vengeance 2 rockets who hit Amsterdam and London during the Second World War, the first ballistic missile who went to outer space and has a far more travel ability than any other rocket at that time, and was the basis of all the American inventions of scientific missiles in the 50s and 60s. So the entire, or almost the entire development came from the Operation Paperclip, where the captured German scientists were flown over to the United States. And one of the most prominent was Wernher von Braun. Yeah, that's a picture in his very young age. So he was obsessed from his tutors, Hermann Obert and many other people, to build a rocket and to send somebody on the moon. I think that during our Science is the New Religion series, I also viewed a spot of a clip of Women on the Moon from the director Fritz Lang, and that movie from 1929, if I remember correctly, influenced the young Wernher von Braun. Wernher von Braun means Werner of the family of Braun, so lesser nobility. And I don't go into him once again because I covered the subject on Science is the New Religion. He said, research is what I'm doing when I don't know what I'm doing. So these people do not know what they are doing and do not know where the inspiration comes from. They don't know that their inspiration comes from spiritual entities. But that's not our point. My point is that when he claims he can send a man on the moon, and you have to listen then to the Science is the New Religion series, where we have covered the fact that it is absolutely impossible to do so. And also, he was writing a book, I think it was 15 years ago, that he says that the rocket has to be gigantic in size and they had trouble with fuel capacity, and so they cannot make it to send somebody on the moon and then to get him back. Very interesting when out in the open he's shaking hands and he's confirming Kennedy that they can do that. And on the other hand, he's got Psalms 19:1 on his gravestone. So what's Psalms 91?
To the chief musician, a psalm of David, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork, Michael.
Yeah. So he's relying to God. We do not know who's ordered to put it on his gravestone, if he was doing it by himself or some other guy, but I think it's very out of the ordinary, out of common, that scientist puts a Bible verse on his gravestone. So you can make up your mind if it is possible that somebody has, on the one hand, is putting a lie out, and on the other hand, he's believing in God. So then,
according to this, he lived 65 years, Michael.
Yes. He died of cancer, and one of the last things he did was warning the people of lies to come from extraterrestrial threats and all the things. But there are other
I wonder why he died at 65. I doubt it was because of cancer.
Yeah, you see that if you got a conflict in yourself because you're doing things where you know that it's absolutely untrue, then I think it's just very common that you will have illness in some way.
Oh, yeah, like what do you call this? A cognitive dissonance. So this,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
But it's
that's
just an
true.
estimation. You see that's just basic psychology here. I do not know this. I cannot know this. You see that I only see that it's Psalms 19:1 is here covered on his gravestone, and that is very interesting when it comes down to somebody who was supposed to be successful in putting somebody on the moon. But that's not the part of the session.
I
It's
agree.
about
I mean, it is interesting in the sense that the Bible says that the heavens declare the glory of God. It's not us that declare it. His creation declares it.
yeah, and I'm not in line with Pope Francis, who says that evolution is absolutely fine and in accordance with the Bible. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one or the other. Yeah, you see that if you put a quote of the Bible on your gravestone, on your grave, then it absolutely necessarily means that you're not following evolution but creation.
Yes.
So, and the creationist says that there are waters above the firmament, and so many things contradicting that it's possible to send somebody on the moon.
Well, could it be that Werner von Braun had a epiphany in his later age and decided, well, I need to tell the people, warn the people, you know, and the consequences of that may have been too much.
Yeah, you see that if somebody would really wants to go into this, then he has to listen to the sessions which we did on the science as the new religion. Yeah, of course they succeeded in starting the rocket. Yeah, beast mode. Saturn 5, so Satan 5. Yeah, Satan's victory. Yeah, in fooling the people that the only thing you see is a starting rocket. You don't see any man in that compartment here. You don't see any moon landing. You only see a starting rocket. So that's it. It's a bigger scale of something that usually people here did in the past when it came down to New Year's Eve. So this is the broader scale here. Oh, this is a combined thrust of so many pounds and so, but it's just a rocket. It's not a spaceship at this moment. Yeah. So they are fooling you. It's just Hollywood. It is only Hollywood. And people, of course, I can imagine, people are very proud of that in the United States because, oh, when this fantastic rocket is going up, then it's coming down USA, and everyone says, yeah, we were the first nation who sent a man on the moon. Yeah, sorry, but you did not send any man anywhere. Yeah. If you send anybody anywhere, then it is in space, but not on the moon.
They were the first. Well, we were the first nation. I don't consider myself part of the United States, by the way, even though I live here, because you know the Bible says, you know, gather yourselves together, those that are escaped of the nations. You're not supposed to be part of any of these nations. They're not of God. But anyway, that's for another topic. But Michael, you know, this just proves the point that they're just trying to fool everyone into looking at the creation and not the creator.
Yes.
You know, it's the whole point. It's so big and spectacular, and they spend all this money on it just to draw you away from, you know, the spiritual side. Let's focus on the physical. You know, it's all about power and domination, and oh, now we're going to go into space, and we're going to have worlds in space, and we're going to travel into space. Yeah.
Yeah, remember the famous song, yeah, USA. Yeah? Remember the famous song, I am the Lord of Hellfire, and I send you fire. I teach you to burn. The hidden God, or the Mammon, or any other name you can come up with, is always depicted with fire. And you see that the combustion engine here is burning fire it's burning fuel at a tremendous rate. Yeah? So it's destruction also. It's destruction of fuels. But
Sure.
of course, I'm so far-fetched now when I go into this. Yeah, he said that on September the 12th, not 11th, the September the 12th in 1962. Okay? That's what he said. So he was promising the American audience that they will go to the moon. We chose to go to the moon. So it's not their choice. We chose. Who's we? Who's we? Was it the American people as at a poll? They said, yeah, that's the main goal of our society in our century is to put somebody on the moon. Or who's we? Is it a military industrial complex? Is it NASA? Who is we? We chose to go to the moon. Yes, we can, but who's we? Huh? So that is also a question unanswered here. So that I will skip it because they are hard. Yeah. Okay, now we will go into a big rush into other things which happened on that thing, on that day, on that year, 1962, because I intended to do the Kennedy or the assassination or the conspiracy thing in general, a little bit in a chronological time, in a chronological order. So you know that this is the Mrs. Marilyn Monroe. Happy birthday to you. Yeah, she was more than... she had a very interesting performance, yeah. And it has been known that both of the Kennedy's brothers, so Robert Kennedy as well as John F. Kennedy, had sort of, this is Yellow Press, sort of affair with that woman. The problem is that both of these men were not politicians, but married at the time. So that is a contradiction, if that is correct, against one of the 10 Commandments, Brett.
Yeah, thou shalt not commit adultery.
Yeah. And so the so-called actress Marilyn Monroe, at the 19th of May, 1962, you see in the same year, when in September John F. Kennedy said we chose to put the man on the moon, she made an appearance for his birthday officially to the birthday of U.S. President John F. Kennedy, and this was the last public appearance of Mrs. Monroe, and that I found very interesting.
The last public appearance of...
Yes.
Oh, I never knew that.
Yeah.
Wow, that is very interesting. But can you imagine what this did to the wives of the Kennedys? You think they were a little upset about this?
Yeah. Yeah, and she appeared in the see-through dress. Yeah. And then she was happy birthday. Yeah, you know that all the stuff. Yeah. But the problem is that she's got a similarity to Kennedy because the circumstances of her death are up to this very day are not clear. That puts her in line with the famous German prostitute called Rosemarie Nitribit, whose death until this very day is unsolved. She was very famous for riding in an open Mercedes-Benz convertible, and she had ties to very high-ranking politicians and industrial businessmen in Germany in the 1950s. So there are many cases unsolved until this very day. So she made that appearance, happy birthday, for JFK on the 19th of May. And on the 4th of August, 77 days after, she was found dead in her bed in Los Angeles on the 4th of 1962, the 4th of August. So many people say that Marilyn Monroe wanted to be the first lady. Therefore, she wanted to put pressure on JFK. And you see that we don't know what's what. But it's clear that always these very prominent people have a strange death at a very young age. She was, I think it was 36, I think she was. Then it's very suspicious because, of course, Mr. Kennedy also had a very early death. Yeah, 1926 to 1962. She was 36 in that age. So, happy birthday, Mr. President. Happy Birthday, Mr. President is a song sung by actress and singer Marilyn Monroe on May 19, 1962 for President John F. Kennedy at a celebration on his 45th birthday, 10 days before the actual date. Monroe sang the traditional Happy Birthday lyrics in a sultry, intimate voice with Mr. President inserted as Kennedy's name. She continued the song with a snippet from the classic song Thanks for the Memory, for which she had written new lyrics specifically aimed at Kennedy. The performance was the one of her last major public appearances before her death less than 3 months later on August 4th, 1962. First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy, who rarely attended Democratic Party events, spent the day at the Loudon Hunt Horse Show with her children, John and Caroline. You see that John F. Kennedy was a married husband and then was confronted with Marilyn Monroe, most likely because she wanted to, to set the stage for her and Mr. President. President Kennedy's birthday celebration was held at the 3rd Madison Square Garden, and more than 15,000 people attended, including numerous celebrities. The event was a fundraising gala for the Democratic Party. Monroe's dress was made of sheer and flesh-colored marquisette fabric with 2,500 shimmering rhinestones sewn into it. The dress was so tight-fitting that Monroe had difficulty putting it on. She wore nothing under it. It was designed by Jean Louis. Monroe was accompanied to the event by her publicist Patricia Newcomb and her former father-in-law Isidore Miller, with whom she had remained very close. Peter Lawford, and Peter Lawford is not anybody, because Peter Lawford is also related to the Kennedy family. He was a member of the Red Pack and the brother-in-law of President John F. Kennedy and Senators Robert Kennedy and Edward Kennedy. So he was a brother-in-law to Kennedy, and he promoted Mrs. Marilyn Monroe on that very occasion. Peter Lawford was at the event that night to introduce Monroe. He made a play on the actress' reputation for tardiness by giving her a number of introductions throughout the night, after which she did not appear on stage. When Monroe finally appeared in the spotlight, Lawford introduced her as the late Marilyn Monroe. Monroe peeled off her white ermine fur coat, revealing the dress, and the audience gasped. And that's why I asked my brother Brad Norman some time ago what it meant if somebody has been described as the late lady.
That means, yes, that she's dead.
Yeah.
But they were meaning in the sense that she's notoriously late for the event.
But you see, that can also be double talk.
Yes, it is double speak. Yes.
Yeah, double speak, because that was one of her last public appearances, and she never went into a public appearance, to my knowledge, then again. And 3 months later, she was dead. And I think that if somebody would have prophesied that, in 3 years, in this year, that Marilyn Monroe would die at the age of 36, I don't know if that is very highly likely, but it's a very strange coincidence that 3 months later, she was being found dead in bed. And now on the German page, there is the same event covered, but I found another thing. Let's hear the happy birthday YouTube. He joked about her tardiness with the words late Marilyn Monroe, took off her white cape jacket made of mink fur, and they left the stage. Monroe began to sing a birthday song with passages from Happy Birthday, etc., etc. At the end of her performance, a large birthday cake was transported into the hall. Meanwhile, President Kennedy made his way to the stage and responded with, "I can retire from politics now that Happy Birthday has been sung to me in such a sweet, digestible way," unquote. If you understand that in the way that I understand it, Brett, it means that now if it would come out that he's got an official affair with Marilyn Monroe, he can quit politics because he's been selling the people that he is the all-charming, all-true, all honest president with a wife and several children.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I don't know if that is a joke. I think that
It's a
also
kind of
double-speak.
admission. It's a kind
Yeah.
of admission is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my point. And that's the big alarm bell, that the house is on fire, actually.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Because Marilyn Monroe also told one of her best friends that she wanted to become First Lady. I don't think that Kennedy would
did. So she did.
Yeah, I don't think that Kennedy would have the public in his favor if he would have married Marilyn Monroe and then left his wife desolate and all the children without their actual mother.
Ah, but you know what, Michael? The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. What about Kennedy's dad? What did he do?
Yeah, Kennedy was notorious as somebody who was a ladies' man.
So there you go.
Yeah.
It wasn't just John that had the problem. Robert had it too.
Yeah, sure. And we know that Marilyn Monroe also had a certificate of identity from the Department of Defense because she was doing war promotion in Korea up there in 1950. So I don't know. You see that if she got an affair with Robert Kennedy and John F. Kennedy, which is most likely, then that does mean that she is one of the people who knows many secrets. Yeah, you know, that pillow talk. Yeah. So that at that moment when she's approaching in that, it almost seems like a setup stage to insult Kennedy. Yeah, to set Kennedy under pressure. And that's what J. Edgar Hoover, for example, FBI, and many other people, and Lyndon B. Johnson, which we will discover much later, have done in the past. That they really wanted to get rid of Kennedy, and they used spies, women, they used telephone calls and all the things and informations to set up against Kennedy because they didn't want him to succeed in the office. Yeah. So the late Marilyn Monroe. So the late in German, die verspätete Miss Monroe means the belated woman, but late, you see, can also mean the deceased Marilyn Monroe. This is German here. Yeah, and that's the problem. That's not the problem on the one hand only for Marilyn Monroe. It's the problem for the Mr. Kennedy, especially.
Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's.
She did want to become the first lady. She didn't want to be some actress, it seems. She wanted to become the first lady. That's the official story. Yeah, so that was, Wikipedia says it's the last appearance in public. Yeah, and she was being killed by an overdose of barbiturates. So she had sleeping problems, more or less. And the circumstances are not cleared until this very day. Okay, so she told her friend John Carmen, me as the first lady. So that's the official thing. So that's a part of Kennedy that people usually didn't want to talk about. It's just that he was notorious, untrue, unfaithful, and like his father, he wanted to have many, many women around. And of course, if you are the president of the United States, you get almost every woman you want, especially when you are looking that young and handsome and sunny boyish like Mr. John F. Kennedy. Okay. That was an intermediate thing. We're speaking about 1962. So 1 month after Mrs. Monroe died, he made the famous speech about we chose to go to the moon because it is hard. And now for something completely different. What's up with Superman Kennedy? You know, he promised us that some Americans will go to the moon in this decade. You see, the character of Superman has changed in the past to this very day. Now, Superman has his coming out. This is from October 2021. Yeah, Superman is now gay. I'm not kidding. But what's Superman actually? Superman is the name of a comic figure in the 1930s of the US-American guys Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, and has his first appearance in 1938. And he's a superhero in the comic history books, in the comic books, and that is about Mr. Joseph Joe Shuster. When Schuster was 9 years old, his family moved to Cleveland in Ohio, where he met Jerry Siegel. They had their first science fiction histories, science fiction stories. And then he was making drawings for the high school newspaper, the Glenville Torch. And then he has created more figures like Dr. Occult, etc., before they had sold the rights 1938 of Superman to DC Comics. Okay? But Superman was invented already in 1932. And it's very interesting that the logo of Superman resembles a snake. Because usually when you look upon that symbol here, people think, oh, it is an S, but S is the symbol of the serpent. It's a serpentine. And this is the snake head here. Or if you would like to depict that as an eye or what else, this is a downright pyramid. Yes, usually I looked at it from a wrong perspective when I was young. I thought this was a fish here. Yeah, but actually that's an S, that's a symbol of the snake here. Very interesting, especially when you know what's coming now. In a link I found, why was the Superman symbol an English letter? It's a family crest representing a serpent. In the 2008 Kevin Anderson novel, The Last Days of Krypton, the EL family, you know, Elohim, yeah? EL means divine, is suggested to symbolize the serpent of deception imprisoned in a diamond-hard crystal of truth. Aha. Now, I think we got the bigger picture here. Yeah? It's the serpent of deception imprisoned in a diamond-hard crystal of truth. Where does Superman get his powers from? In Ezekiel 28, when we are talking about that very explicitly in the satanic media agenda, in Ezekiel, it speaks about Lucifer being in the Garden of Eden. Every precious stone was thy covering. And then you also got the diamond very prominently mentioned. Maybe you also remember the Rihanna song, Diamond in the Sky. And this is also a reminiscence. That's an attribute of Satan in the skies, or Lucifer in the skies. Yeah, so the diamond, everything which is of precious stones, can also mean that it's a resemblance of these Lucifer, Satan, devil profession. Because now there comes the big one. I hope that Brad is now carefully looking up the script, because I think that is absolutely unknown to many people, which was also unknown to me. The creation of Superman. Siegel and Schuster created a bold, telepathic villain bent on dominating the world as the title character in the short story The Reign of the Superman, published in 1933 fanzine Science Fiction 3. The story was not successful and the character was not used again. The Reign of Superman. So usually Superman was an anti-hero or a villain, a threat.
And it was not a success.
And it was not a success.
They had to twist it around to make it successful, Michael.
Ah, it's getting even worse.
Yes.
Because you see, that is a telepathic, so it has something to do with spiritual, a villain who wants to dominate the world. And if that is not Satan, then I don't know what is.
Right.
Yeah, he's above man. He's Superman. He is supreme. You can also exchange the words here with the reign of the supreme, or of the supreme being. Because he's supreme. He can fly. Superman can fly, can he? We can do it much more obviously. Yeah. If you type in Superman and you type in pictures, then you see Superman flying. He's got a cape, doesn't he?
Yep, sure does.
Compare that, please, to Superman. And it's getting worse, because he was ordained as the villain who wants to dominate the world, dominating the world in 1932. Okay, published in January 1933. The story is that a mad scientist, oh, isn't that very interesting subject in 2022, Brett?
A chemist even, yeah.
Yeah, named Professor Ernest Smelly randomly chooses regularly dressed vagrant Bill Dunn from a bread line and recruits him to participate in an experiment in exchange for a real meal and a new suit. When Smalley's experimental potion grants Dunn telepathic powers, so spiritual things or sorcery, witchcraft, the man becomes intoxicated by his power. I will.
Yeah.
Yeah? I will. And seeks to rule the world. So that is Satan. This superpowered man uses these abilities for evil, yeah, only to discover that the potion's effects are temporary. Having killed the evil Smalley who had intended to kill Dunn and give himself the same powers, Dunn was left unable to use his knowledge to recreate the secret formula. Oh, that's a secret formula in a secret society. As the story ends, Dunn's powers wear off and he realized he will be returning to the bread line to be a forgotten man once more. If that is not the case when somebody is seduced by the powers of darkness or by Satan's spirits or by evil spirits, I don't know what is.
The dog returns to its vomit, Michael.
Yeah, but it's getting really worse, because now it's really interesting. I hope, at least. This is a comic here. It's the issue of 168. I see you, Superman. Surrender. You can't escape the Defender. It's Superman. Interesting. Because when we approach the Kennedy age, Superman was a household name in the comic strips. When the comic strip received international distribution, or let's put it this way, when Superman first appeared, Superman's alter ego Clark Kent worked for the Daily Star newspaper, Star, of course, Angel, named by Schuster after the Toronto Daily Star, his old employer in Toronto. Schuster said he modeled the cityscape of Superman's home city, Metropolis, you know, the bishop's seat. You know that famous movie, Metropolis? And you know that Metropolis, Brad knows it as well as me, that is a seat of a bishop.
Correct. It's not just a regular bishop either. This is a hierarchy of the Roman Catholic Church.
Yeah. So Metropolis. This maybe is my favorite line at the moment here. That Metropolis is really not. It's been not discussed here. Metropolis Church. A metropolis religious jurisdiction or metropolitan archdiocese is an episcopal see whose bishop is the metropolitan bishop of an ecclesiastical province. Metropolises historically have been important cities in their provinces. Yeah? It's an archbishop seat. And maybe my favorite line is here, and it's getting even worse. When the comic strip received international distribution, or success, the company permanently changed the name to the Daily Planet. Aha. Interesting. The Daily Planet. He's got a ring on the planet. The Daily Planet means Saturn. Saturn means Satan, means the Lord of the Rings. So Superman, once again, is working for Satan. It's working for the Daily Planet. As we know that the Earth is not a planet because it's not a wandering star, we know that it has something else to do. And this is a a ring around the center of that globe. So it can only be a resemblance to Saturn. And then it is a lot of rings. And Saturn in the occult is a synonym for Satan. That's it. It's like the same on the $1 bill. In God we trust. Yeah, okay. In which God? God's no copyright. The God of this world is Satan. 2 Corinthians 4, Brett.
But if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost, in whom the God of this world hath blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Christ, who is the image of God, should shine unto them.
Yeah, and it's also the same as John 8:44, when it is the father of lies, and therefore they don't believe Jesus Christ. And so that you see this is a confirmation here, 2 Corinthians 4, that when Satan blinds the minds of the people, they do not believe the gospel of Christ. Yeah. Therefore, the entire world is the opponent of the Christians. It's been mentioned here prominently in James 4:4.
Yeah. Ye adulterers and adulteresses, know ye not that the friendship of the world is enmity with God? Whosoever therefore will be a friend of the world is the enemy of God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because for the love of money, you see the people will sacrifice their faith and their soul. It's so obvious what it is, but it will always be neglected by the governments. You see, also on the dollar page, you won't find the dollar sign. That's very interesting.
No, you won't, will you? That is interesting.
So where does it come from? Usually, it says, oh, that is has something to do with the symbol of the Spanish currencies, but it's not absolutely clear where it comes from, because here on the columns of Heracles or Hercules from the coat of arms of Spanish, there are two columns, and most of the times it's been seen as a symbol of the columns of Heracles or the Spanish will to power, so non plus ultra. So this is the border. Don't cross that border, non plus ultra. But, and it's a big but, many people say that also the dollar bill symbol comes from the Roman abbreviation 2S or HS. Interesting, huh? For the Roman coin sesterces, but they say, oh no, this is absolutely untrue. So that you don't have to talk about this. So these are secrets in plain sight, it seems. Yeah, it's like ICSI 9/11. So that does not explain the symbol here, because I always say that S is the symbol of the serpentine, of the serpent, of snake, of Satan. That's what I always been insisting. And you see that on this dollar symbol here, you see two columns here usually. Yeah, and two columns means of a temple, so it's a temple of Satan. It's so obvious that I'm absolutely keen on doing sessions on simple symbology, but I do not have any time for that yet. Almost, I don't know, maybe next year or so, I don't know. So you see also the two columns in every temple, or be it the Freemasons or who else. Yeah, also that's the case for the Solomon's Temple, Herod's Temple, and Twin Towers. It's always two columns symbolize a temple. Yeah, and I don't know if it was in English where I talked about that. You see, the North Tower is there where God is residing, and God's realm, and therefore the North Tower of the two World Trade Centers, they have the antenna. That's my explanation about it. Yeah. And so 9/11 is about a ritual, and 9/11 means also 1 Kings 9:11. And would you care to read it, Brett? 9/10,
Sure.
9/11.
I will do that.
Remember, please, it's a World Trade Center. Nobody asks why the World Trade Center has been built in a separate north and a separate south tower. And here you got one example of an explanation. Please, Brett.
1 Kings chapter 9, verse 10 and 11. And it came to pass at the end of 20 years, when Solomon had built the two houses, the house of the Lord and the king's house. Now Hiram, the king of Tyre, had furnished Solomon with cedar trees and fir trees and with gold, according to all his desire. That then King Solomon gave Hiram 20 cities in the land of Galilee.
Yeah, there you got your two houses, then you got your two trade centers. One is the house of the Lord and one is the house of the king. So the north tower has the antenna, and I say that could be a symbol for the house of the Lord. And it's very interesting because the king of Tyre, wasn't there something of Tyre in Ezekiel? Yeah. Saint the prince of Tyrus. Take up a lamentation upon the king of Tyrus. Yeah, and the spirit behind the king of Tyrus is Lucifer. Lucifer dash Satan, who was been in Eden and the garden of God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there you got your combination, or you got your relation to the 9/11 events, ICSI 9/11. And of course, it goes far more deeper than that, because in Book of Revelation, chapter 9, verses 11.
Mm-hmm. And that reads, yes, they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the explanation on the Greek, on the eSword software. It's a destroyer, that is Satan. Yeah, so 9/11 is a code for Satan. Yeah, I know that it's the police and emergency code, but it's no coincidence that it is the police and emergency code in the United States. There are no coincidences. Yeah, and destroyer means Satan. So, for example, here the group KISS has been talking about Satan here, destroyer. They're actually making a feast day for Satan. You see, this is destruction here. This is dust, this is destruction, this is not a building anymore. Yeah, and also on that Love Gun album, they are making the sign of the horned one, the Manu Cornuta. Yeah, and you see also the two columns here in KISS Love Gun, and a symbol here, which stands for the women womb. Yeah? So this is Apollo 11. Then you got now the crisscross reference to the moon program of Mr. Kennedy, because it has been named Apollo. Apollo is the short or the abbreviation of Apollyon, the destroyer. So the mission is Destroyer 11 or 9/11. Yeah, no, Michael, it was not set up on September 11. I know.
That last photo you were showing with KISS there, and you had explained that that is a symbol for the womb.
Yeah,
wasn't it the word matrix has something to do with the womb as well?
Yeah. And it's always interesting that in the Roman Catholic Church, you usually have the entrance in this shape.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Arches. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Apollo 11, of course, 11, because also it's a Freemason thing. Most of the astronauts, I don't know if all, but many of the astronauts are Freemasons, and it's a Freemasonry setup because the United States were created by Freemasons. Yeah, it's so obvious. You only have to look upon a picture of George Washington.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And so this is Mr. Dr. Werner von Braun at the Neil Armstrong Moonscape. This is a picture of Dr. Werner von Braun at the Neil Armstrong Moonscape 1969 Southeast Fair.
Man.
If that is correct and not a Photoshop image. Yeah. And it's getting worse. Yeah. Of course, this is Saturn 5. This means Satan, and 5 is the greeting of the Horned One, or the Roman numerals 5. The 5 times I, the 5 stationary courses of the planet Venus, which we have shown in, I think it was session 2 or 3 of the beginning of the series. And now it all makes sense, huh? That 5, Romans 5, yeah, means 5 times I will. Yeah. And somebody claims here XC stand also for I am. I'm not in line with that. Yeah, but this means I will. And what does in Isaiah 14:12? It was Isaiah 14:12. Let's look it up.
Mm-hmm.
We have covered that. I know that in the science is the new religion. What he says here, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Now compare that, please, to the launch of the Saturn V rocket, which ascends above the height of the clouds because it's a rocket. It's a rocket named after Satan. Or Saturn, or daily planet with the ring around it. And you don't tell me that he didn't know that he had to fool the people. His only goal in life was to succeed in building an enormous rocket, and he did that. But he could not send a man to the moon. Yeah. Yeah. So don't let them fool you into believing that John Kennedy knew something about space trips or science. He was just a politician. He was just 45 years old, and he has studied politics, etc. He was so busy with many things, and don't come up with telling me that he studied science and everything else, that he absolutely knew what he was talking about. He should have said that to the general public, because I have also found out, of course, it was more than obvious that he was not the one who was writing his speeches. So they were written for him. He's more or less like an actor. It was not his speech. Yeah, he gave a speech, but it was not his speech. So there are many, many powerful people behind that who are writing speeches and who are writing and deciding what you tell whom and when. Now you see John F. Kennedy in an open vehicle, usually, together with Werner von Braun, the responsible manager of the NASA, National Aeronautics and Space. And he's got an official ticket here so that he has a security clearance, that he can access that very car and he can be near Mr. John F. Kennedy. On that picture, you see here Lyndon B. Johnson, the runner-up and the vice president in the area of John F. Kennedy, and the name where also the Space Center was been named after him, after Lyndon B. Johnson. Yeah, and you see that this all is a military operation. Yeah, the NASA has the website nasa.gov, government. This is a government organization. It's not a free enterprise. It's not a free science laboratorium. Yeah, this is just military. So we are speaking about of a military operation here, or if you like it or have it in other terms, about a psychological operation to make the people believe into the ability of the United States that they can actually put a man or 2 or 3 onto the moon and return them safely back, a thing which never had been done before, and since more than 50 years never been done after that, after 50 years. Because all the technology has been lost. You see, it's an army project. It's like Area 51 and all the things they're coming up with. It's just to distract the people. That's why it's called the historical mission control. Of course, they have lost all the tracks, they have all the records, and nothing can be found. But they have, at least, they have found the old computers. We're talking about 1969. These are television sets here. They are just look fancy with some flashlights and some remote controls here. But this is just technology of more than 50 years ago. What do you expect? You don't expect 4K here, don't you? Yeah. And we know when you talk about mission, we know that it has something to do with Jesuits, don't we, Brett?
Oh yes.
Okay, then we got.
And
now
it's historic too. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah, we know that, but maybe it's more easy. I have to switch off the lights here. If we go into the origin of the word mission, so that people actually can see in the live session here. Mission means since 1590s. The Jesuits had been set in power in 1540, 50 years later, sending abroad as an agent original of Jesuits.
Ah, so, see, it's a Jesuit original.
It's a Jesuit original, yes.
So what does the gospel of Christ have to do with missions?
Yeah.
You know, if you want to follow a different Christ, then I guess it has a different meaning.
Mm-hmm. But Brett, it's getting even worse. This is a rare comic featuring JFK and Superman finally on display at the Presidential Library. Superman's mission for President Kennedy. Now, everything that I pointed out in the last, 90 minutes or so, please compare that. That means Satan's using of Jesuitical agents for President Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you see, this is the snake of deception captured in a diamond here on the front breastplate on Superman with his cape, with his wings. And of course he can fly, sure. He's Superman, he's above man. Yeah, he's, if you like to say so, he's one of the spirits coming down and trying to help people to get enlightened or what else. In 1963, so in the very day where he was assassinated, President Kennedy enlisted Superman as part of an ambitious fitness campaign. Now, for the first time, original art from the rare comic titled Superman's Mission for President Kennedy is on view at the JFK Library in Boston. As it happened, though, its pages almost didn't make it onto the walls. Mission, we know it's originally of Jesuits, meaning an organized effort for the spread of religion or for the enlightenment of a community. So Superman is coming down from a far distant planet of the EL family of the gods, yeah, to enlighten, that's it, yeah, the community. But actually we know that the origin is a villain who wants to dominate the world, don't we?
Yes. Right.
So he's got here a secret mission, yeah, officially for President Kennedy. This is an official comic, guys. I'm not making it up. I have not painted that. I cannot do that. I've got not these abilities. But it's getting even worse. Because you see that mission control is the same mission sending out Jesuitical agents when it comes down to the National Aerospace Agency or administration. Yeah, so it's all Jesuitical. Also, the mission control is absolutely Jesuitical. It's all Jesuitical here. It's all Jesuitical, guys. It's all baloney. It's Jesuitical science. It's science, so-called. It's a new religion. You shall believe in evolution. You shall believe in a Big Bang. You shall believe in anything but Jesus Christ and God.
Yeah, you shall believe ratio studiorum.
So there are no coincidences.
That's all you get in this system. You don't get anything about, what the real truth behind the Bible is, do you know? You have to work for that on your own, and no one's going to help you with that.
Yeah.
That's the sad truth of it, Michael, and no one helps you.
There are no coincidences. You see that when Alfred E. Smith, as the first Catholic, was running for president, and I think it was 1928, yeah, you have here a comic from Mad, Alfred E. Neumann for president. Yeah, do you think that they came up with Alfred E. Neumann out of a sudden by coincidence? I cannot prove it, but I find that very strange.
Yeah, that is very strange because it's very close to Alfred E. Smith, but not. So it's a kind of spoof or something.
Yeah. Yeah, Alfred nominated for president, but you see that president was Kennedy, and Kennedy had the mission from Superman. She had the support of Satan or the Jesuits in 1960. This comic came out in 1963, and he's been depicted here without color. Without color means dead.
Oh.
There's no life in it, but he depicted here in the Capitol. You see, the Capitol is the veneration of the Roman god of Jupiter.
Yeah, that's funny. You were hovering your cursor over the image, Michael, and it almost looked like a cross on your cursor there.
Yeah, you see the temple of Jupiter Optimus Maximus, protector of the city, in the Capitolian Hill in ancient Rome. Of course, that's also the name of the building in Washington, D.C., where the Congress means. But the more earlier meaning is the temple of Jupiter Optimus Maximus, protector of the city. What kind of a cross did you mean?
Oh, yeah, I was just making this silly comment.
Okay.
It almost looked like, almost like a crucifix, actually.
Yeah, but you see, this is 1963, and they are admitting you in a humorous way that Satan is using the Jesuits for Kennedy, and Kennedy is here depicted as a kind of a ghost already. You don't have to follow my explanation. I would be very satisfied and very delighted if you use your common sense, and if you study the things, then maybe you come up with the same or maybe a different conclusion, but just use common sense when it comes down to explaining things. Don't let anybody decide what to think, how to think, and what to feel. Yeah, it's your body, it's your mind, and it also has been given to you by the God of the Bible. And so please use it, and please ask the Lord what's right and what's wrong in this world. But I find that no coincidence. And as I said, I prominently use it's getting even worse, and it's now getting really worse. So there was a Superman's mission for President Kennedy. Everybody had to get fit, a physical fitness program. And in Superman's issue number 168 was in production when President Kennedy was assassinated, of course, on November the 22nd in 1963. So 168 was in production. Okay, let's look at 168. So this is the issue 168. Superman, then a bold villain here. Yeah, on a statue or so, and then there's a so-called defender here. I see you, Superman, surrender. You can't escape the defender. And Superman says, what irony, on this world I have no superpowers and I'm hunted like a public enemy, but Luthor, my great foe, has superpowers, a secret identity, and is a public hero. So this is 168 in the progress during the assassination of the President JFK, when we knew that some months before the Superman was on a mission for JFK. Yeah, and this is a special issue here. This is an all Luthor issue featuring Luthor superhero and Lex Luthor Daily Planet editor. So Lex Luthor is here now the head of chief of that Daily Planet, means the Saturn. And Superman is now the guy hiding behind the wall, not to be recognized, not to be seen, because he has stolen something, obviously, in his, I don't know. Yeah? He says, the people are saying here, hooray for the defender, he'll catch that Superman from Earth who stole our treasure. Interesting. And I came up with a very strange idea, which I think it is true. And let's hit the hammer on the head. This is a Luthor issue. It's about Lex Luthor, the arch-enemy of Superman. Yeah, but what does Lex Luthor now means? Lex means the law. Lex talionis means the law of retaliation, an eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth. For example, but Lex in itself means the law. And Luthor is coming from the surname Luthor. So that means that Lex Luthor, the arch-enemy of Superman, means the law of Martin Luther. And then it makes perfectly sense that Superman has got these superpowers, is coming from a different world, has escaped with these styled wings on it, and is a depiction of Satan.
Mhm.
So in this world, everything is tossed around. Superman here means Satan is the good guy, and Lex Luthor, who's been depicted here as the original Superman, more or less the bold one, is the hero. No. So Lex Luthor in this world is the enemy, the bad one, the evil one, and Superman is the good one. When actually Superman is a depiction of Satan coming down from the sky, a supreme being, and Luther means Martin Luther, the law of Martin Luther, the law of
There
Luther.
you go. There you go. That's how you have to train the people to be obedient to the overlords here, the satanic overlords of this world. So
Yeah.
you train them when they're young, don't you, Michael?
Yeah.
Through comics.
Yeah. Even if you go into the Luther surname of Wikipedia, they point out it's originally in honor of Martin Luther, notable people. Yeah, and then you got Lex Luthor, a comic book villain. So it's not only my suggestion, but it's just what Wikipedia also has to present you. Lex Luthor means the law of Martin Luther. And as America originally was intended to be a Protestant-free country, it's quite obvious now that Superman, with all his abilities and with his worldwide distribution, is a depiction of Satan, and Satan now is taking care of JFK, because Satan is what? Satan is on a mission for President Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
Months before. I know that people will say this is all a big coincidence, but ask yourself, were you really aware of the fact that Lex Luthor means the law of Martin Luther in the United States? So there are so many gems hidden everywhere where you can look and where you see that people are fooling you and they have pleasure in fooling us. But I don't have any pleasure in being fooled, so therefore I would like to give.
Well,
that
and the saddest part is that people buy it and then they actually put their faith in it, Michael.
Yeah, and they buy it. They buy the comics and they support the satanic system, even with their money, unwittingly or unknowingly.
Yeah, and unaware of
unaware. Yeah.
And the Bible even speaks of that too.
Yeah.
So the Bible's told us everything in advance, Michael.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you see, these are all the comics here, and it's JFK comics everywhere.
So that we as people should ask ourselves, well, why is it that we believe it? Why is it? It's because we've been trained to believe it. Everything that we rely on in this life, our money, our position in social instances in the church and in the state, both rely on our participation in these types of things. We've been thoroughly indoctrinated through things that have nothing to do with the Bible. Do they, Michael?
Mm-hmm. Now, this project has been cancelled due to the brutal killing in Dallas, because usually it was meant to be for the for one earlier print of that comic. So they have not issued that because of the killing.
Oh, this is in German, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, I found that in German.
Oh, interesting. And it's not in English, is it?
I really don't know. I have not looked it up if it was in English too. But it does not matter, because you see that it's just been telling you here that the comic here, Superman's Mission for President Kennedy, I can retranslate it into English.
Thank you.
No problem. It was in DC Comics magazine 170, published shortly after Kennedy's death. in July 1964 that one of the greatest homage comics paid to his memory appeared, Superman's Mission for President Kennedy, an episode originally intended for the previous issue, and in which Superman helped the presidential promote his real sports education campaign among American youth, which means that was during the lifespan of JFK, if I have understood that correctly. But the project was cancelled because of the brutal assassination of Dallas, which shocked the entire nation, and in this issue appeared another Superman adventure.
Mm-hmm.
So it was in the working when Kennedy was killed. Yeah. So, but the thing is, here in this episode, that's why I wanted to have the combination of Superman, the moon hoax, Werner von Braun, his JFK moons. Sorry, I think that it's now, yeah, we are at the end. Yeah, so I wanted to combine everything here with the moon hoax, with the JFK's moon speech, with the Lex Luthor, with Superman's mission, that you see there are no coincidences. Everything has been set up before. And if you really think that something happens on accident or by accident, you really have to look upon the Inter Mirifica once again, when the church or the Pope explicitly is telling you that they have the inherent right to own all the media. This includes print. This includes comics. This includes radio broadcast, television, cinemas, smartphones, etc. All. Which means that all the media will get through censorship before it will be published. So that means that we have to be very, very, very careful when we go into the real history of the American president, John F. Kennedy, because I think that the things that were presented today are not presented in the usual JFK documentaries. So then, thank you very much for having me, and I'm handing it over to my beloved brother Brad to close it down.
Thank you, Michael. Very interesting to look into this, because there's just everything stands in the way of, getting right down to the nitty-gritty of actually studying the origins, the etymology, the history, and of course most of that history is simply wiped away because that's not a position of power. Actually, Christ is a position of what can we say? It's a fundamental position, and that of course is something that is under attack at the current time. And yeah, thank you, Michael, for bringing this to our attention. I'm looking forward to getting deeper into the assassination and also the elements that have been, well, what can we say, hidden along with the rest of it for all of these years. What are we going to unearth? It's impossible for me to comment on that. We just simply will continue, and we hope to see you next time, God willing. Maranatha.